Usually when we talk about a diagnosis, there's this expectation of precision. Think about engineering or, I don't know, medicine.
Right. It's usually pretty clear cut.
Exactly. Like you break your arm, the X-ray shows that jagged white line, and the doctor just points at it. It's right there in black and white.
Yeah, it's binary. The bone is either broken or, well, it is not broken. There's really no room for interpretation.
And that's comforting.
Mm.
We like things to be visible. We like problems to be, easily
Oh,
categorized.
absolutely. It feels safe.
But step into the world of purchasing complex, highly technical services, and suddenly that X-ray machine it's completely broken. We are looking at a landscape that is just incredibly murky.
Murky is the perfect word for it.
Think about the last time you, the listener, had to hire a contractor or, say, a mechanic or a specialist. You were basically flying blind.
Oh, totally. You have
Yeah.
no idea what they're actually doing behind the scenes.
Right. So today, we're exploring the psychology behind why really rational people make, well, terrible, cheap decisions when buying complex services.
It happens all the time.
It does. We are using the roofing industry today as our ultimate case study. And we're pulling from a masterclass titled RoofCommand Academy, which is all about selling value over price. We're going to unpack the mechanics of trust building and the art of selling the invisible.
Because this isn't just about shingles or gutters. It's really a study in human behavior.
Yeah, exactly.
It answers a question that plagues almost every professional service industry out there. Why do buyers so consistently default to the cheapest option, even when that cheapest option is objectively worse for them, and sometimes, frankly, even dangerous?
Okay, let's unpack this, because the trap at the bottom line is where this whole problem begins.
Right. It all starts with the price.
If we want to understand how to build real value, we first have to understand why a buyer gets completely fixated on the price tag in the very first place. The reality is, homeowners simply do not know how to compare technical proposals.
And I mean, how could they?
Exactly.
Unless you work in the trade, you just do not possess the vocabulary or the technical context to evaluate the differences between two quotes.
It's like reading a foreign language.
It really is. Imagine sitting at your kitchen table with two pieces of paper in front of you. One contractor says they're going to replace your roof for $10,000. The other says they're going to do it for $15,000.
Okay.
To the untrained eye, the end result looks identical. You get a new roof.
I was thinking about how people make these comparisons, and it's a lot like buying a high-end sports car, but then insisting on putting the absolute cheapest, baldest tires you can find on it.
Oh, that's a great analogy.
Because you don't understand the mechanics of traction, right?
Yeah.
You just see four round rubber things and assume the cheaper ones are the smarter buy.
Yeah, there's tires. Right.
Right. You're completely ignoring that those tires are literally the only thing keeping that incredibly expensive car on the road.
What's fascinating here is that when a homeowner defaults to that cheaper price, it is almost never because they are inherently cheap.
Wait, really? Because it definitely feels like people just want to save a buck.
I mean, sure, nobody wants to waste money, but it is mostly a symptom of a lack of clarity. That is a critical paradigm shift for anyone trying to understand sales psychology.
Oh, wow.
If the buyer is only comparing the final price, the professional sitting across from them has fundamentally failed to build value early enough in the conversation. They failed to translate those technical specifications into something the buyer actually cares about.
So it's not about, like, lecturing the homeowner on technical jargon. It's about completely reframing what is actually being sold.
Exactly. You have to move away from physical materials and dive straight into emotional and practical outcomes.
Because a roofing contractor isn't just selling a layer of asphalt.
No, not at all. They are selling protection, peace of mind, reduced risk. They are selling accountability and project control.
I love that. Selling project control.
Ultimately, the homeowner is trusting a group of complete strangers with their most valuable asset, their sanctuary, basically.
Right.
But to convey that, the roof has to be explained not as a static layer of materials, but as a dynamic, living system, a system where every single component has a specific job.
Let me play devil's advocate for a second, though. I can hear someone listening to this deep dive and thinking, come on, isn't a roof just a roof?
Huh. Yeah, I hear that all the time.
I mean, doesn't it just keep the rain out? Why are we overcomplicating it with all this talk of dynamic systems?
I get that pushback constantly, and it represents the exact misconception that causes homeowners to make disastrous purchasing decisions. A roof is absolutely not just a roof.
Okay, break that down for me.
When you look at the cheapest option on the market, The contractor almost always ignores the systemic approach to save on costs. They just, slap new materials on top of underlying problems.
Okay, let's actually translate some of this, because the jargon alone is enough to make anyone's eyes glaze over. You hear terms thrown around like underlayment, starter strips, ridge vents, drip edges, pipe boots.
Yeah, it's a lot.
If I'm a homeowner, those words literally mean nothing to me.
Let's translate them then. Think of the underlayment. That isn't just paper. It is the waterproof raincoat that goes over the bare wood of your house before the shingles ever even go on.
Okay, a raincoat.
Right. If the shingles fail, the underlayment is your absolute last line of defense against a flooded living room.
Oh, wow. And what about starter strips? I always assumed you just start nailing shingles to the bottom of the roof.
A lot of people think that. But if you do that, the first strong gust of wind will peel your roof back like a sardine can.
Yikes. Okay.
Starter strips have a specific adhesive line that glues the very first row of shingles down to the edge. It essentially seals the perimeter.
That makes total sense.
Yeah.
Then you have drip edges? What are those?
These are the little metal lips installed at the bottom edge. Without them, water doesn't drop cleanly into the gutter. It sort of curls back up under the wood framing of your house and just rots the fascia board over time.
I see where you're going with this. It's a chain reaction. If you miss one link, the whole thing fails.
Precisely.
What about ridge vents? I've definitely seen those on top of houses.
Those are crucial. A ridge vent acts like an exhaust pipe for your attic. The cheap roofer might ignore ventilation entirely to keep their bid low.
Which saves money up front.
Sure, but without that exhaust pipe, in the middle of summer, your attic turns into a literal oven. It traps all that heat, and it will physically bake your brand new shingles from the inside out.
You're kidding.
I'm serious. It makes them brittle and voids the manufacturer's warranty on day one.
Day one. That's insane. And pipe boots?
Those are the rubber seals around the plumbing pipes that stick out of your roof. The cheapest contractor usually just reuses the old, cracked rubber seals.
Oh, I can see where this is going.
Yeah, a year later, water runs right down the outside of the pipe and straight into your drywall.
That paints a totally different picture.
Yeah.
The cheap option isn't providing the same result for less money. It is providing a fundamentally compromised result. You're buying the bald tires.
Exactly the problem. And this raises a really important question. If the homeowner doesn't know any of this, how does the professional communicate it without sounding like they are just, trying to upcharge them?
Yeah, that brings us to the psychology of the presentation itself. Because knowing what to sell is only half the battle.
Right. Execution is everything.
When and how you present it determines whether you win or lose the sale. You absolutely cannot wait for a homeowner to say, wow, $15,000 is really expensive, to start explaining what a ridge vent does.
If you wait for the price objection, you have already lost. The core principle from the masterclass here is to build the value before you ever present the price.
Because price without context always feels expensive.
Every single time. But a price wrapped in trust, backed by a proven process, supported by documentation, and framed entirely around risk reduction, that feels completely logical to the buyer. It feels safe.
And in any high-stakes purchase, safety is what the buyer is actually hunting for. They want to know they aren't going to regret this.
Exactly.
So how do you establish that safety right out of the gate? The inspection?
Mm-hmm.
But not just a guy walking around on your roof kicking the shingles.
No, it has to be deeply purposeful. Taking photos, making detailed notes, gathering concrete evidence of damage.
Documentation is the tool that bridges the gap.
Think back to our X-ray metaphor from earlier. The inspection photos are the X-ray. You are bringing the invisible, abstract problems happening 20 feet up in the air down to the kitchen table, where the homeowner can actually see them on a tablet or a piece of paper.
You are transforming your role from a salesperson into a diagnostician.
That's a great way to put it.
Here's where it gets really interesting. The inspection isn't actually for the roofer's benefit.
Well, mostly not.
I mean, sure, they need to measure things to know what materials to order, but primarily the inspection is a psychological tool. It is a performance.
It absolutely is.
It is designed to show the homeowner that this contractor is a methodical, precise professional. It sets the baseline of trust for everything that follows.
That baseline is vital because once you have established proof through that meticulous inspection, you earn the right to have a much deeper, more uncomfortable conversation.
The fear conversation.
Yes, you have to proactively address the unspoken anxieties that every buyer fears but rarely says out loud.
The fear of chaos. That is such a powerful concept from the source material. Homeowners fear chaos. They worry about delays.
Oh, big time.
They worry about a giant rusty dumpster sitting in their front yard for 3 weeks, ruining the grass.
Right. They are terrified of bad communication or, finding rusty nails in their driveway tires.
Surprise costs halfway through the job.
Yes. Or contractors just taking the deposit and disappearing into the night.
And let's be honest, those are completely valid fears.
Totally valid. The home improvement industry has, unfortunately, earned some of that reputation.
Yeah, for sure.
That is why articulating a clear process creates confidence. The professional must clearly explain the step-by-step journey, from the moment the contract is signed, through the installation, all the way to the cleanup and the final walkthrough.
But beyond the process, they must explain the risk of the alternatives.
That's the key.
But wait, how do you actually communicate that risk? I mean, how do you point out the flaws in a cheaper competitor's quote without sounding arrogant?
It's tricky.
Because if a salesperson sits in my living room and just trashes the other guy, my guard immediately goes up. I assume they're just bad-mouthing the competition to make a buck.
It's a delicate balance. The most professional way to navigate this trap relies on absolute neutrality. You don't attack the competitor, you attack the ambiguity of their quote.
Give me an example.
You look at the homeowner and say something like, when you compare proposals, the key is not only the final number. It is what is included, what is excluded, and what happens if there is a problem later.
Oh, that is brilliant. Notice how that doesn't point a single finger at the other company.
Exactly.
It just shifts the homeowner's attention back to the details. It prompts them to ask, wait, what did that other guy exclude?
Right. The best salespeople do not sell fear. They sell clarity. They illuminate the blind spots. They hand the homeowner a flashlight.
And once you turn the lights on, handling the inevitable price objection becomes a totally different conversation.
It really does.
Because, let's face it, the buyer is still going to say, your price is higher. But handling this objection isn't just some clever sales tactic to get a bigger commission. It is a matter of literal business survival for the company.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, competing purely on price absolutely destroys a business from the inside out.
How so?
When a company operates on razor-thin margins to win every bid, it creates a toxic pressure cooker.
Because low margins mean you have to cut costs somewhere.
Yeah.
And usually, that means pressuring your labor.
Exactly. You hire cheaper, less experienced crews who work too fast. That lowers your quality.
Which inevitably leads to mistakes.
Right. Now you have angry homeowners calling you with leaks. You have to send crews back out to do warranty work for free, which just drains your cash flow.
It creates a death spiral. A company can be incredibly busy, working 7 days a week, and still be completely broke.
Busy, but broke. It's a real epidemic in the trades. Selling on value protects the entire company's ability to grow, to pay quality labor, and to actually be around in 5 years to honor the warranties they're handing out.
To prevent that death spiral, the masterclass outlines a specific psychological sequence to use in the field. A 6-step framework.
Yes, and the rule is you have to use the sequence before you ever show the buyer the price.
Okay, let's walk through it because the psychology here is fascinating. Step 1. What we found.
Right. This goes back to the x-ray. You show the photos, you point to the cracked pipe boot or the missing drip edge, you establish the reality of the physical problem.
Step 2. Why it matters. You don't just show the cracked boot. You explain that water is currently running down their plumbing pipe and rotting the wood in their attic.
Exactly. You connect the dot for them. Then step 3, what goes wrong if this is handled poorly?
Right.
This is where you introduce the concept of the cheap competitor without naming them. You explain that if someone just smears some caulk over that cracked boot instead of replacing it, it will fail again in 6 months.
Hold on, I love this structure. You're anchoring the pain and the risk of a bad decision before you even offer your own solution.
They're setting the stage.
You are making the cheap option look incredibly dangerous, which leads perfectly into step 4, what our specific solution includes.
Now you introduce the new premium pipe boot. You explain how it seals completely and permanently fixes the vulnerability.
Step 5, how the job is protected and documented. This is where you relieve the fear of chaos, right?
Yes. You explain your cleanup process, your communication protocol, the warranties. You assure them the yard won't look like a war zone.
And only then, after those 5 steps are fully established and understood, do you move to step 6, present the price. It is a masterclass in psychological framing. By the time you reach step 6, that $15,000 number is no longer just a random expensive price tag.
Not at all.
It is justified by the immense amount of value, risk reduction, and methodical process you have just established. It's the difference between just quoting a number and actually selling a solution.
But as with anything in business, executing this framework consistently across an entire sales team requires more than just a charismatic presentation. You can't just talk a good game at the kitchen table.
Because if you operate out of a messy notebook and a disorganized truck, that illusion of professionalism shatters the second the job actually starts.
You need a structural, operational backbone to back up all those promises. You promise documentation, seamless communication, and a flawless process. You actually have to deliver it.
So what does this all mean? It means all the sales psychology in the world falls apart if you don't have the operational infrastructure to support it.
You need systems.
Things like customer relationship management software or CRMs. Think about platforms built specifically for this, like RoofCommand CRM from the source material. But it's crucial to understand how a system like this actually builds trust. It isn't just a digital filing cabinet.
No, it is the mechanism that delivers the psychological relief we've been talking about. Think about the friction of a typical home project. A homeowner is anxious, they're waiting for updates.
Constantly checking their phones, yeah.
When a contractor uses a robust CRM, they aren't just storing photos, they're sending the homeowner a digital link to a portal where they can see the timeline, view the inspection photos, and read the estimates clearly.
It instantly lowers the homeowner's anxiety. It's the difference between telling a homeowner, hey, I'm organized, and actually showing them a seamless digital process from the very first handshake to the final invoice.
Show, don't tell.
Right. If the estimate comes through as a professional interactive digital document instead of a scribbled number on the back of a business card, the buyer subconsciously thinks, okay, these people have their act together, my house is safe with them.
It removes the friction, it helps companies look the part, sell with total confidence, and protect those vital profit margins so they don't end up in that busy but broke death spiral.
To bring all of this together, a commodity gets shopped, but a trusted professional gets chosen.
That's the golden rule.
The overarching lesson from this deep dive is that the cheapest estimate is almost never the safest choice for the consumer. Selling value is fundamentally about replacing the buyer's natural confusion and anxiety with clarity, trust, proven process, and meticulous documentation.
It is about turning the invisible mechanics of a job into visible, tangible value. It's really an empathy-driven approach. You are acknowledging that the buyer's flying blind, and you're taking on the responsibility of being their guide.
And that leaves us with a fascinating thought to mull over. The psychology we unpack today proves that when consumers lack technical understanding, when they don't know how the system actually works, they default to comparing the cheapest price tag.
We all do it.
So for you listening, think about your own life. In what other high-stakes areas are you doing this? Perhaps in your healthcare choices, your financial planning, or, I don't know, even your education. Are you defaulting to the cheapest estimate simply because you don't fully understand the scope of work being offered? Are you looking for a simple black and white X-ray in a situation where you should really be looking at the entire complex system? Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. We hope you start looking for that invisible value in your own professional and personal decisions before making your next big choice based purely on the bottom line.